So I'm continuing here with Medellin, 1809, part of the Shadow of the Eagle series. This one, Medellin, was published in this Spanish gaming magazine, Alea, number 16, from 1993. So Spanish language war game magazine. Rules, Spanish rules in the center. There. Rules. Actually, quite a bit of diagrams. So there's the original Spanish rules for the series, and then there's the Medellin 1809 exclusive rules. So one page. I think there's basically just one scenario, one battle. I didn't see anything other than that. Yeah, because you have duration and sequence of play, components, orders, and I hope I don't I hope I do not mistranslate something here, but scale, terrain, morale and organization, command, I guess, because these are the command ranges, and here's the command divider, which I'll be talking about, which I plan to talk about, demoralization and victory, and then setup. So yeah, it's one scenario for the battle, which is fine. Page one of the player aid, charts and tables, and page 2 of the player aid, charts and tables. So that's it. 12 pages altogether, it looks like. Yeah, altogether. So that's rules, or series rules, game rules, and player aid, and scenario with setup, etc., or exclusive rules. All right, so that's the magazine. It comes with the copy I purchased came with this just a very simple text only English translation, which I'm now finding that I'm going to concentrate on these rules now, because I went online and I pulled off these Shadow of the Eagle series rules, labeled as advanced rules. I have no idea why, but they are labeled advanced rules. They don't look, I didn't notice anything dramatically different between the two design wise. However, translation wise, this, which I thought was a later version, yeah, it's got to be a later version, because it references these English language rules were translated from the original Spanish for Paper Wars in 1996. So despite that, this translation has caused some problems, to the point where I'm not using it anymore. So I'm back to this one. Okay, and then I went ahead and made my own photocopy of the English translated charts and tables that come in this printout, and that's really it for what I'm playing here. Let's talk about a little bit that happened off camera. So I started turn 3, and there's a mutual orders phase first. First of all, I looked at Cuesta and his situation on the Spanish side. All of his 5 divisions have attack orders, and given the overall battle situation, I don't see any reason to change that. They need to stay aggressive. They need to bust through this first French line, and they need to gain as much ground as they can before the French infantry here moves up. So no need to change an order there. If Cuesta had a desire, so he has 5 subordinate commanders there, and he only gets 1 opportunity to try to change an order. So again, I'll say that the order's limitations in terms of how many opportunities and the chances of succeeding are, well, they're not generous. I don't know if they're too strict. I don't know that yet, but they definitely do not come across as generous. Now, on the French side, again, the 2 cavalry formations have their defend orders up there. No need to change there, because if anything, we're talking about roughly a C grade French force trying to hold back a D/E grade Spanish force. So I would not call this situation dire yet. So staying on the defensive seemed fine. Obviously, Victor here, the French commander, overall French commander, wants to get these guys moving up as quickly as possible. So it made sense to just start with the first formation. I mean, he could have gone with Ruffin, which is right next to him, but I think it's the amount of ground that they need to cover that is key here. So during turn 3, by scenario rules, Victor gets 1 opportunity to change orders. Starting next turn and till the end of the battle, Victor, I think, gets 2 opportunities to change orders. That's going to be nice. And I think Victor having 2 opportunities a turn versus Cuesta having 1, I think that is a meaningful difference to see the different command flexibility and, frankly, the quality of the armies overall. So let's talk about changing orders. So Villat, 2nd Infantry Corps here. Again, I wanted to get them up, at least get up onto this hill, this slope, before the Spanish arrive. So this is interesting. Victor's going to try to change his orders. I guess I'll go through which one. Well, I'll go through the order that I went through. The order I went through was, first of all, if Victor successfully changes Villat's orders, what should his orders be? And it wasn't obvious, right? At first I thought, well, give them attack orders. But actually, and this is what's kind of meaningful, is that you have 6 different commands, which includes without orders. So not counting without orders, you have 5 orders. If I had given them attack orders, they would, if they move, they have to end closer to the enemy. That's fine. That's what I want. And then there's that thing about trying to enter combat, which again is fine, because I want Villat to move up. And I would think that by the time Villat got up here, he would be in a position to also initiate combat with some Spanish units over there. But there is a maneuver order. Maneuver order says may move freely, but not closer than 5 hexes to an enemy unit. I looked at the slope here. I mean, the slope is 4 hexes from this Spanish unit. It's 5 hexes from this Spanish unit. 6 hexes from these Spanish units. So I was thinking, if I want Villat to get up here as quickly as possible, I don't think the Spanish are going to, overrun that hill before the French get there. So I think that moving freely, but not closer than 5 hexes to an enemy unit, is okay. Those units in command, I should probably start talking about being in command. I'll do that soon. Those units in command may move an extra 2 movement points, extra 3 movement if along a road. I mean, Villat's already partially on the road, on and parallel to the road. So it kind of made sense to maybe have Villat execute a maneuver order for a turn or 2, and then at that point Victor will have 2 order changes a turn, and so maybe Victor can change his order from maneuver to attack or defend, depending on how this situation shapes up. So I went with maneuver order. So I decided that I want Victor to change Velat's orders from no orders to maneuver. So how do they describe the mechanic is described this way: changing orders. The player wishing to change orders of a command counts the distance from the leader to his superior commander. Here's Velat: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hexes straight back to Victor. So it's 5 hexes. So let's go like this. Let's go 5 hexes. Take the number of hexes, divide by the command divider given in the scenario instructions. That's where we go back to that scenario instruction I mentioned. So to use the Spanish, of course I have the English translation off camera, but right there, the French, their divider is, whoa, is that right? Let me see if that squares with the English translation. Yeah, okay, yep, that's true. Yeah, that's right. What was I thinking? So yeah, the French have a divider of 3, the Spanish a divider of 2. Okay, so take 3. Take the number of hex divided by the command divider given in the scenario instructions. This number or greater must be rolled on 1 die in order to change the current orders. And the commander must not move during a turn when he attempts to change orders. So again, implication is when they talk about changing orders, it's the superior commander changing the orders of a subordinate commander, not in any other way. 5 divided by 3 was over 1.5. Yeah, over 1.5. There's nothing in the rules about rounding or anything like that. There's no explanation for how to do this, so I'm taking normal rounding. All it says was exactly what I said. The number greater must be rolled after you divide range by divider. So I'm using normal rounding. I rounded up to 2. So 2 or higher on a die roll should change the order. And actually, they rolled a 3, by the way, and so they were able to change the orders. So on a 2 to 6. So only on a roll of 1 would they fail to change orders. Victor, only on a roll of 1 would Victor fail to change Velat's orders. So they did successfully change their orders. Now, what I was going to say is that seems very, and again, there's no deep experience here on my part, but that seems fairly traditional, almost miniatures-esque, in the sense that I could imagine from the 1970s or 80s a Napoleonic miniatures game where it literally says measure a distance between commanders in inches and divide by this number and roll on a die, and it would almost invariably have been a 6-sided die, and that just seems so again so miniatures-esque, 70s, 80s kind of generation of miniatures rules or designs. But that's my impression. Certainly easy to remember, actually very easy to remember, and you don't need a table, and you don't have to have stuff on the counters to handle that. Count the number of hexes, divide by 2, that number or higher to change, divide the French by 3 or the Spanish by 2. Okay, so that is orders change. Then we start the French phase with French movement. There isn't going to be any, or some other things. No, I think we'll move up. Obviously, Velat now has the maneuver order, so I think these guys will have 2 extra movement points. These guys on the road, or I should say these guys will have 2 extra movement points. These guys should have 3 extra movement points. So actually being able to, I moved Velat here actually, being able to see this, it's easy to see the significance of changing to maneuver order. This force would have been, roughly back here without the maneuver order. So, so that's significant. Let's talk about command, being in command, etc., and out of command. So none of this is standard or by table or anything. You have to look at the game rules. So in the Medellin 1809 exclusive rules, command range for the Spaniards is 3 hexes. Command radius for the French is 4, except for Lasalle and Malbourg. Malbourg and Lasalle are the 2 forward cavalry formations. They have a command span of command radius of 6 hexes. This is by hexes. And I looked at this because I wanted to know, I was going to leave a lot like this, but I wanted to know, is the artillery back here? Actually artillery may not. Actually, I should look at that. Is artillery ever out of command? Well, this artillery is back here on the road in Limburg. But let's talk about this infantry unit. This trailing infantry unit, will it be out of command next turn? Wait. When do you trace command? I think it's only implied. I think nothing is ever stated about that. It's not like there's a command phase or anything. So I guess in the absence of any specificity, I guess it's when I need it, right? So actually this would be right now. When I end this phase and I move on to the Spanish defensive fire and then the French offensive fire, I guess it would pick up then. But actually being out of command only affects movement. It also affects movement in only this way. Units out of command may not enter or leave an enemy's OC. And I can imagine some situations where that might be fairly significant. But that's not significant all the time. So a unit being out of command isn't necessarily a big deal. It could be. Being out of command could actually lead to a unit being destroyed if it all comes down to them not being able to leave that enemy's OC that they're in. But and obviously units that are out of command cannot go on the offensive because they cannot enter an enemy's OC. Okay, I wonder about artillery though. So this is kind of interesting. Artillery are considered independent and do not need orders. That's what it says. That to me doesn't really answer the question of whether they're out of command or not. Actually it may never, if being out of command is only a matter of entering or leaving an enemy's OC, maybe it doesn't even apply to artillery. But having said that, it's true that it may not apply. It may be a moot point. But I do want to emphasize that in my real world thinking first, command is different than orders. Being in command and out of command is different than orders. But that doesn't mean that has anything to do with the game design here. I think that's all the French movement. Well, that's interesting. I just realized this, oh, that's interesting. Oh my, okay. I'll go in order here. I thought, well, if artillery doesn't need orders and they're independent, that implies to me that this artillery back here that's limbered can move along its merry way towards the front. I think that's how that works. Then I thought, well, if that's the case, then to go back to Velat's, is that Velat's artillery or is that just with Velat? Oh yeah, this artillery doesn't show, I remember this from when I was setting it up. This French artillery doesn't show any affiliation at all. So that's funny. That makes me think, did that artillery, would that artillery get the maneuver order benefit of extra movement points? You know, one way to look at it is that, and I'm going to move it back, one way to look at it is that it does not get the extra, that it does not get, this is, I'm putting it back 3 movement points back. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. So I'm going to say it doesn't get the maneuver order benefit at all, and that's why I took it back, because actually they could move it every turn because they're independent, and that means that I am going to move that unit forward. Interestingly, these are town buildings, I guess. Artillery, 1 movement point, but may not deploy in hex. Oh, so they have to move through these buildings limbered anyways, but it's 1, so I think they can go, let's see how many. Is this in the way? Oh, there's more artillery. Interestingly, the artillery cannot enter at all the castle there, Castillo. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Does the artillery go around, or does it try to go through? But if it tries to go through, I'm wondering about that passing 8 strength points in a front and rear hex. I'll take a look at that before the next video.